Hengari. But first, the news with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. The chairperson of South Africa's African National Congress Party has defended the country's sovereignty amid growing tension with the U.S. over race relations and a new land law. Speaking as acting president at the National Freedom Day celebrations, Gwede Mantashe said South Africa is not a province of the United States, but a free and sovereign country. U.S. President Donald Trump has hit out at South Africa's new expropriation law, signing an executive order in February stating it was a means to which the government could seize ethnic minority Afrikaners' agricultural property without compensation. The expropriation law does allow the government to seize land without compensation, but only in certain circumstances. Trump's February order also opened a door for Afrikaners to be admitted to the U.S. as refugees, describing them as victims of unjust racial discrimination. A total of 18 illegal miners are expected to make their second appearance at the Mohwase and Brits Magistrate Court in Northwest South Africa on different dates on Tuesday, 24th of June, for contravening the Immigration Act. According to police in the province, the accused aged 21 to 41 were arrested during the Vala Umgodu operations, which were executed in Vetranki's village near Sun City and Majaganeng village outside Brits, respectively. Police spokesperson Brigadier Sabata Mkhwabone says in the course of the arrests, equipment used to mine illegally, such as water pumps, jackhammers and electric extension cords, were confiscated.
In a continuous effort to address illegal mining and related offences, a total of 21 accused appeared in the Brits and Mohwase Magistrate Courts on Thursday, the 24th of April 2025, for contravention of the Immigration Act of 2002. Out of 21 accused, 3 were found guilty by the Brits Magistrate Court and sentenced to 6 months imprisonment or a fine of 2,000 rand, which was wholly suspended. The court ordered that the accused be deported to their countries of origin, which is Mozambique and Malawi.
South Sudan's rival leaders should honor Pope Francis' legacy by ending the country's conflict. This is the view of the Vatican's diplomatic representative to the East African country. Archbishop Seamus Patrick Hogan has encouraged the South Sudanese to fulfill the Pope's sediment, which is to see true peace and see dialogue as the condition to that of peace and silencing of weapons of war. The Pope, who died aged 88 last Monday, has urged the two sides of South Sudan's conflict to forge a permanent peace during a historic trip 2 years ago. Lastly, Qatar has suggested that advances have been made in talks aimed at reaching a new ceasefire in Gaza. Thus, despite a recent intensification of fighting, but major obstacles remain, the BBC's Sebastian Asher.
After rejecting Israel's latest ceasefire offer more than a week ago, Hamas now seems set on a longer-term objective to seal an agreement that would see the release of all the remaining hostages as part of a deal to end hostilities for at least 5 years. Hamas has suggested that it could consider disarming as part of such a trade-off, but only if Israel were to pull all its forces out of Gaza. The Israeli government appears to have no intention of doing this. That means moves towards a ceasefire may once again founder.
Now, for any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Egypt edged South Africa to open Total Energies Under-20 AFCON campaign with a vital win last night, while Daniel De Boer as well as Oleksandr Usyk will fight to become the undisputed world heavyweight champion at Wembley Stadium on the 19th of July. I'll have details of these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Thank you to Onele Nzinzi and Msibudi Makura with our sports and news update. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X and Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763, that's 4069126. Hashtag Africa Update, and do continue to follow us on all our social media platforms and let us know what your thoughts are. If you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
During a recent visit to Johannesburg Central Business District, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa acknowledged the city's state of dysfunction and announced the formation of a working group to assist the mayor. However, there is widespread public skepticism about the move, given a history of government promises that have failed to deliver real change. The key question now is, how can the city of Johannesburg improve service delivery and rebuild public trust, all while grappling with severe financial pressures and governance challenges? Now, Channel Africa's business reporter, Innocent Samosa, has more.
The city once hailed as Africa's economic hub, Johannesburg, is now deep in crisis due to infrastructure decay, lack of basic service delivery, and financial mismanagement. Associate in Dispute Resolution Practice spokesperson Charles Green outlines legal frameworks or processes in place to address non-performance by municipal officials in relation to their official duties.
The responsibilities and functions of municipal officials are contained in a few pieces of legislation, right? Which basically says this is your mandate. A useful starting point is Section 195 of the Constitution, which basically provides basic values, principles that govern public administration. And these apply throughout all spheres of government, but it also include your municipal context. So in the municipal context, the national legislation that's enacted to ensure that these principles are adhered to, and it provides for further powers and responsibilities of municipal officials, is the Municipal Finance Management Act, right? So essentially it provides a basis for this is your mandate, and it also says, look, if you fail to reach your mandate, these are the consequences. An example is Section 32 of the MFMA, which provides that, look, municipal officials, you will be liable for unauthorized expenditure. So essentially, money that is spent in absence of an empowering provision or in absence of legislation actually allowing you to spend that money.
He says that although they are protected against liabilities to third parties, the municipality can still recover losses and damages caused by negligence.
Municipal officials are protected against liability to third parties for loss and damages that result from bona fide exercise of power or the performance of a function under Section 175 of the MFMA that does not prevent the municipality from recovering losses or damages that have been caused by deliberate or negligent acts. So very important judgment, and it actually provides an additional layer of accountability for municipal officials. And they'll have to think, quite hard about the risks of acting in a manner that deliberately or negligently causes loss to a municipality.
But what legal tools or reforms can state-owned entities use to improve service delivery and public trust, given current financial and governance constraints? Charles Green explains.
So state-owned entities provide vital goods and services to the country at large, such as electricity, water, and transportation. Over the years, we have unfortunately seen a steady decline of SOEs, which has inevitably resulted in the failure to deliver basic goods and services to the majority of the country. These problems stem from lack of financial power and a lack of good governance, which we saw quite explicitly at state capture. The issue with the lack of finances is that SOEs do not have the financial power to expand, maintain, and upgrade critical infrastructure. This was evident last year in Johannesburg, with the relevant public institutions that are mandated to provide basic service delivery confirming that they do not have the necessary funds to commission all the required upgrades. The consequences, obviously, if unattended, are dire. For example, load shedding, day zero in Johannesburg, where, there may not be any water.
Green says the relationship between SOEs and municipalities needs to be mended.
The first is the interplay between SOEs and municipality. The relationship between SOEs and municipalities needs to be mended, and appropriate mechanisms need to be put in place to ensure that payments are made efficiently and properly from municipalities to SOEs. For example, it was estimated in December 2021 that municipalities across the country owed Eskom an amount of 107 billion. And then the effect, obviously, is a crippling effect on Eskom because they still need to deliver outputs, but they don't get the financial money that they actually owed.
As Johannesburg grapples with growing public frustration, experts believe that stronger accountability, legal reforms, and better collaboration between municipalities and state-owned entities are critical to reversing the city's decline. For now, residents are left hoping that the promises made translated into real action before Africa's once proud economic hub falls even further into crisis. For Channel Africa News, I am Innocent Samosa in Johannesburg.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Uganda has declared an end to the country's latest outbreak of Ebola, 3 months after authorities confirmed cases of the highly infectious and often fatal viral hemorrhagic infection in the capital, Kampala. The East African country announced its latest outbreak on Wednesday, the 30th of January in 2025, after the death of a male nurse who tested positive for the virus. The health ministry said in a post on the X platform, "Good news, the current Ebola Sudan virus disease outbreak has officially come to an end." It added the declaration of the end of the outbreak followed 42 days without a new case since the last confirmed patient was discharged. And for more on this, we are joined on the line by our Channel Africa news correspondent in Uganda, Mike Arareng. Mike, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu Gaboo. Here, the weather is very, very, very fine.
Well, Mike, we're also having good weather. Now, we're looking at the Ebola cases, 14 cases, 12 confirmed through lab tests and 2 not confirmed through laboratory testing. And this Ebola virus is endemic to the region, which this is the case now with Uganda with this latest outbreak. Now, the first case reported in the country, what mechanisms did the health ministry put in place in response to this outbreak?
Thank you very much. Just to give you a brief background, at last, Ugandans have a very big relief from one of the fatal pandemic to attack the country, to affect the country. The government of Uganda has announced the Ebola outbreak here in the country is over. According to the Minister of Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, Uganda is now Ebola-free, but cautioned the citizen to be vigilant in order to avert any future outbreaks. The declaration of Ebola-free has been made 42 days after the last confirmed case. Uganda has been building strong systems by having well-equipped laboratories. The declaration was made possible after controlling the outbreak. No traces of active Ebola has been found yet. A response plan made it possible to tackle the Ebola pandemic, but it was costly.
When you say it was costly in terms of how often does Uganda deal with the Ebola virus? Because, as you mentioned, it is costly. And what impact does it have on the health system of the country?
Well, this has been the second time Uganda is facing the Ebola pandemic. The first case was about 15 years ago when Ebola Congo Ebola Congo struck and killed a dozen of people here in the country. And it was spread also by refugees from Democratic Republic of Congo, and also suspected people who were eating monkeys by that time. Early this year, there was a new outbreak, Sudan Ebola virus, in which about 5 people lost their lives, including a doctor. So the government actually has come up with new systems in order to tackle the pandemic. So right now, people have been called up to be very, very vigilant and to report cases. If they suspect any type of strange disease, they should report immediately to the authorities.
Now, speaking of the Ebola Congo, with the neighboring state, the DRC, having reported cases of Ebola, is the ministry confident that the virus will not spread to Uganda?
Well, it is possible right now to control and to make sure that even the refugees who are crossing from Congo DRC, because they are crossing almost every day because of the war situation in eastern part of DRC. So the movement of those refugees actually is being watched very keenly. And actually at the border entry point, all the refugees, they must be checked first of all before they enter the country. Health officials have been actually been posted to all the border points to ensure that the Ebola virus does not spread into Uganda.
And now that the country is Ebola free, Mike, will the Ebola response system stay in place, or will it be dismantled?
It will continue because right now I can say that the Ministry of Health, the Uganda Ministry of Health, is working together with partnership like the WHO and also the Africa Center for Diseases and all other partners to make sure that Ebola is actually is not a big problem, a big threat to this region. So far, the government will continue actually even training most of the health officials to ensure that even the common people, right from the villages, they are being sensitized so that they get to know about this fatal disease, Ebola.
Well, Mike, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you too, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mike, and to you too. That's Mike Arareng, Channel Africa News correspondent in Uganda, joining us on the line.
Ritmos e cultura com o embaixador da música africana e lusófona, Jacob Wakantivani.
Mombali nanga kasongo mbona wewe songa libala oh yeah mbona wewe mombali nanga
tem sentido tanto a sua falta e dos ritmos de cultura onde você esteve, meu querido embaixador.
É 2025 e o embaixador da música africana e lusófona, Jacob Wakantivani, traz todas as entrevistas com os músicos africanos e lusófonos para a melhor dança, entrevistas e entretenimento. Não perca! Todos os domingos, das 20 às 21 horas de Johannesburg, aqui no Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 20 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our acting president, Gwede Mantashe, says he would encourage people to go and build in Oranje if he was the president of the country, that's South Africa. Mantashe says this move would encourage healing over hatred among people of all races as the country marks 31 years of democracy this year. He was speaking at the Freedom Day celebration in Emelo in the Mpumalanga province yesterday, where various government officials commemorated the annual celebrations at the AJ Swanepoel Stadium.
thousands of people descended upon the AJ Swanepoel Stadium in Mpumalanga to celebrate Freedom Day under a GNU government. Due to ill health, President Cyril Ramaphosa could not deliver his key address and delegated Minister Gwete Mantashe.
The president is not well. He can't speak. He's down with flu. I know that is a confidential discussion between a patient and a doctor.
Mantashe has further warned those who are sowing seeds of racial division in the country. He says there are deliberate efforts to cast one race in the position of the oppressed and the black majority who were oppressed for centuries in the role of the oppressor. This comes at a time when misinformation about the country is being spread. U.S. President Donald Trump has accused South Africa of human rights violations against white farmers, resulting in the Trump administration cutting aid to the country.
We will not allow anyone to define us. Nobody must define us and tell us who and what we are or turn us against one another. No one will do that. We are a people, we must make choices that unite us. We must roundly reject all attempts to divide us on racial lines. South Africans, one thing that we must do is to look at what we have done over the last 30 years.
Mantashe has added that if he was president, he would encourage people to go and build in Orania, the only white settlement in South Africa. Mantashe says this move would encourage healing over hatred among people of all races.
If I would be a president for more than 3 hours, I would declare that people must go and build in Orania. Black people must go and build there. And we mix them. They appreciate that hatred can never survive peace. It is peace that builds a nation. But I can't. If I was, I would say, go and build in Orania.
Mantashe says the GNU will not relent in its pursuits of economic and social justice, reiterating the GNU's priorities of driving inclusive growth, job creation, and reducing poverty. I am Sibahle Mota in Ermelo, Mpumalanga.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Namibia's President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has dismissed the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Land Reform, McAlbert Hengari, following serious allegations of corruption and sexual assault. Hengari was arrested after accusations emerged that he attempted to bribe a rape victim to prevent the case from being reported. The president's swift action to terminate Hengari's appointment underscores her administration's firm stance against corruption and unethical behavior among public officials. And to speak to us about this, we are joined on the line by Namibian journalist Ellen Shishepo. Ellen, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Thank you so much for having me. It's Ellen Shishepo.
Now, Ellen, what were the immediate circumstances leading up to McAlbert Hengari's arrest?
Okay, thank you so much, Lulu, for the question. The immediate circumstances leading up to the arrest of Namibian Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Land Reform include attempting to offer a bribe to a 21-year-old who accused the now former minister of raping her since 2019 when she was technically a minor, which constitutes statutory rape.
Has the former minister or his team made any public response or given a public response or statements to these claims?
His team in particular have not said anything thus far. However, the president herself did release a statement on Saturday late, stating that he is relieved of his duties and dismissed from the office of the minister.
How has the Namibian citizens, how have they responded and reacted to President Nandi-Ndaitwah's decision to fire Minister Hengari?
The public has expressed shock to the allegations, also to the arrest, and also outrage for the actions that were led up to the arrest of the minister.
Now, talk to us about how this story came out. How did the news break? Was this a young victim when she came out? What happened? Did she open a case? Were there charges involved? Just break it down for us.
Okay, Lulu. To break it down to you, the story actually emerged shortly after the minister became office bearer when the now president inaugurated the new cabinet last month. The story was first broken or brought to the public by a local activist, and then he mentioned the names of the rape victim and their family members, and thereafter, that is when the family members and the rape victim began to share information.
Are there any indications as to who may replace McAlbert Hengari as Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Land Reform?
No indications have been made so far. The public is anticipation of who might replace Mac Hengari.
And what is the next step with regards to this legal case? What further legal actions are being pursued against Hengari?
Well, just for the latest, the former minister was denied bail today in court by State Prosecutor Seredin Jacobs. During their court appearance this morning, himself and his co-accused, Simon Hanga. The charges include attempting to defeat the course of justice, read with the Riotous Assemblies Act, and also the prosecutor denied the bail due to the seriousness of the crime, in also fear that the accused might interfere in police investigations, and the possibility of the two accused being a flight risk as the co-accused has residency in Germany. The case was also postponed to the 3rd of June 2025, pending further investigations.
Ellen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you very much, Lulu, for having me. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, and to you too, Ellen. That's a Namibian journalist, Ellen Shehepo, joining us on the line. It is 12:28 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763, that's 406-9126, hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you'll be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
We'll say good afternoon to Onel Nzinzi with our headlines.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Namibian President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has dismissed Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Land Reform, McAlbert Hengari, following serious allegations of corruption and sexual assault. The president's swift action to terminate Hengari's appointment underscores her administration's firm stance against corruption and unethical behavior amongst public officials. Over 6,200 individuals were apprehended attempting to illegally enter or exit South Africa. The Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Michael Masiapato, briefed the media over the Easter operations, which saw the implementation of drone technology and body cameras. And the International Court of Justice in The Hague is holding public hearings today to examine Israel's obligation to facilitate humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Onele. Say good afternoon to Msibudi Makura with our sports update.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. A very good afternoon from the sports desk. We'll start with this story. So the host nation, Egypt, make a winning start to the Total Energies CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Egypt last night with a hard-fought 1-0 victory over South Africa at the Cairo International Stadium. So the match played immediately after an impressive opening ceremony was the second fixture of Group A following a goalless draw between Zambia as well as Sierra Leone earlier on in the day. Mohamed Abdallah was the hero for the young Pharaohs, netting a decisive goal in the 62nd minute. The result now leaves Egypt top of Group A after the opening round of matches. They will now face Sierra Leone on Wednesday, with South Africa taking on Tanzania in their second group game. The Pharaohs, by the way, are chasing a fifth under-20 continental title, having previously lifted the trophy in 1981, 1999, 2003, as well as in 2013. On to some cricket news now. Proteas women are taking on their nemesis, India, in the one-day international tri-series opener in Sri Lanka. The match is expected to start in the early hours of Tuesday morning at the R. Predimasa International Stadium in Colombo. Sima Ayabonga Kaka has acknowledged that the team is in a much more better place now than it was when she made her debut as a wide-eyed 20-year-old back in September of 2012. Now the veteran with 106 one-day internationals to go with 131 wickets and an economy rate of 4.20 says that they've come a long way and they are ready now to compete against the best teams in the world.
To know where we come from as a team, to be where we are, I think for me that's the biggest motivation. I know when there was nothing, at least now we are moving in the right direction. I think to understand that and be part of it just keeps me motivated each and every day.
Right, so the 32-year-old Ayabonga Kaka became the first black African woman and the only third black African cricketer, with Makhaya Ntini as well as Kagiso Rabara to notch up 100 ODI matches for South Africa. That was just last year. Kaka has words of encouragement for aspiring cricketers.
I always say it doesn't matter where you come from. It's all about your goals and what you want to achieve. Everything is possible. There's a many of us that have done that, and there's still more that I believe can do it. Without nothing, they can be something.
On to this now. Nigeria has named a team of 17 athletes for the 2025 World Athletics Relays tournament scheduled for China. The squad includes 9 female as well as 8 male athletes who will compete in the men's as well as the women's 4x100 meter relay events, as well as the mixed 4x100 meter as well as the 4x400 meter relay events. Now, the World Relays, which will be held in May, also serve as a qualifying event for the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games. Technical Director of Athletics Federation of Nigeria, Samuel Onikeku, says Nigeria is primed to do well in China because the National Sports Commission have taken care of the welfare of the athletes in the build-up to this event.
To have the team arrive in Guangzhou 5 days to the competition to try and perfect batting exchanges. Last year we went to Bahamas and we entered for 4 relays and we qualified for 4 of those relays for the Olympics. So here we are going for 4 relays, 3 of which will be at the World Championships, the 4x1 women and 4x4 mix. So these ones we are going there to try to qualify for those relays. And after the NCAA, when all our athletes are free, we'll try and qualify for the 4x4 men and women.
And finally, in boxing news, Daniel Dubois as well as Alexander Usyk will fight to become the undisputed world heavyweight champion at Wembley Stadium on the 19th of July. Now, the Brit Dubois is the IBF champion, with Usyk holding the WBA, the WBO as well as the WBC belts. Usyk is undefeated in 23 fights and beat Dubois via a 9th round stoppage in August of 2023. The 38-year-old Ukrainian made history in May of last year when he beat Tyson Fury to become the first undisputed heavyweight champion of the four-belt era. Now, Usyk, who also is undisputed at cruiserweight title, vacated the IBF bout prior to his rematch with Fury in December. Dubois, meanwhile, was upgraded to IBF champion as a result and successfully defended the bout against Anthony Joshua in September of last year. He was also set to make a second defense against Joseph Parker in February, but illness forced him to withdraw from that bout in the fight week. Now, no British boxer has held the undisputed heavyweight title in the four-belt era, and the last Brit to be undisputed heavyweight champion was a great Lennox Lewis back in 1999. Usyk last competed in December when he earned a second win against Fury. It's 12:36 p.m. Central African Time. That's a wrap of your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sporting updates in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu Di Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. The Morning Switch Weekend with the Shy Guy.
Just the other day, I went to pick up my daughter from school, and as per usual, her friends don't usually come to my car just to say hellos and goodbyes. So this particular day, they made this comment about my jacket, saying that it's giving baddie vibes.
You say my jacket is giving what?
It's giving baddie vibes. It got me thinking, where did the baddies come from? Because nothing is new under the sun, as it is said. I was like, oh yes, remember the Kenyan parliamentarian? Her name is Millie Odhiambo.
When you are urging me to be a good example to the girls, the younger ones who are doing their first term, Mr. Speaker, if they are good girls, they'll never get corner office. Be as bad as Millie Odhiambo, you will be the mother of this house. So do not be cheated like the African culture, where you are told have decorum, be nice. I'm telling you, you will go nowhere. Be a bad girl like me.
And I thought to myself, that is the original baddie.
Saturday and Sunday mornings belong to the Morning Switch. 3 to 6 a.m. Central African Time. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is 12:38 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our business news up next with Wintle Hedbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Lulu. Good afternoon. Angola's Finance Minister, Vera Davis de Souza, says a slide in crude oil prices is increasing the likelihood that Angola will need an International Monetary Fund loan. Sub-Saharan Africa's second biggest crude oil exporter has based its 2025 budget on an oil price of $70 per barrel. Tabisa Luhuko reports.
Brent oil futures briefly traded below $60 at the lowest level in 4 years after U.S. President Donald Trump announced sweeping tariffs on the 2nd of April. The contract settled at $66.91 on Friday. The minister says that the government is working on measures to mitigate the impact of lower oil prices on the revenue side, make tax administration more efficient, and boost enforcement of property taxes. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisolo Hoku.
Ethiopia says it expects to reach a preliminary agreement on the third review of its $3.4 billion loan program with the International Monetary Fund early this week and sees formal debt talks with the bondholders starting in summer. The East African nation, which struck a 4-year, $3.4 billion program IMF deal last July, is in the midst of a far-reaching reform push, including the flotation of its birr currency and a push to get its debt restructuring over the line. Lebogang Mabange has more.
Speaking on the sidelines of the IMF and World Bank Group spring meetings in Washington, Finance Minister Eob Tekalain said he had met IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva as well as other staff to discuss progress on reforms. Ethiopia in March reached a draft agreement with its official creditors on restructuring $8.4 billion of debt, but has been locked in a standoff with its bondholders.
Financial resilience remains a pressing concern in South Africa, where many citizens continue to grapple with debt, limited savings, and the rising cost of living. At a financial dialogue hosted by Momentum in Johannesburg, South Africa, industry leaders unpacked why seeking tailored financial advice is more urgent than ever. Research Director at the Bureau for Market Research, Professor Karel van Aert.
A lot of people feel that they're very financially vulnerable. They feel that they should ensure that there's emergency savings available for them, that also that there's risk mitigation. Another thing that came out quite a lot was that people indicating the importance of having money for funerals, for burials, that also the incredibly high levels of indebtedness.
Taking a look at our indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 608. In Botswana, it's 13 bula 62. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 449, and in Zambia, it's 28 kwacha 16. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 68. Russia is 88 rubles 46. In India, it's 82 rupees 61. China, it's 7 yuan 28, and South Africa $1 is trading at 18 rand 65. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 87 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,281 and platinum at $966 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $66.28 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on 2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Buntle Hetbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Channel 802. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, thank you to Buntle Hetbush with our business news. It is 12:43 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The cost of protorminid, a crucial tuberculosis drug, has fallen by 25% to under $1 per day as of April. The price reduction follows the launch of a new formulation by Lupin, a Mumbai-based manufacturer. Now, Lupin is one of 5 companies licensed by the non-profit TB Alliance to produce protorminid, fostering competition to drive prices down and ensure market access. And to speak to us about this, we are joined on the line by Dr. Mel Spiegelman, President and CEO of the TB Alliance. Dr. Spiegelman, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate speaking with you.
Now, Doc, what prompted the timing of this 25% price reduction for protorminid in April, and how was it negotiated?
So to explain that, really need to explain the strategy of the TB Alliance in commercializing or bringing our products to market. We, in terms of ensuring that our products are both affordable and sustainable, so that all patients can really, who need them, can get them, we believe in generating really very good generic competition. So we license the product to specific high-quality manufacturers who then will compete with each other in the marketplace to drive the product down to the lowest sustainable price. The act of generic competition has really been excellent in ensuring that in the TB marketplace, prices are as low as they can be, yet be sustainable. The other element of this is that we want to ensure and we insist on high quality products so that we will only license the product to manufacturers who pass stringent requirements for ensuring that their products are quality manufactured, as evidenced either by the WHO pre-qualification process or by a regulatory authorities' stringent process of ensuring that their products are very high quality. Now we have 5 manufacturers to whom we have licensed the product, and the product for most countries around the world is provided through the Global Drug Facility, which is an organization of the Stop TB Partnership, and they put out tenders so that the different manufacturers can compete. And Lupin has now entered into the competition, and they have come across, and they, in the last tender, have offered a price of $169 for a course, which compared to the original price when we only had the first manufacturer is now less than 50% of that original price. So it really comes down to the timing is because Lupin has now gotten into the marketplace. They have passed the pre-qualification process at WHO. They are now eligible to compete, and that competition has brought the price down.
Now, does this mean that there is even a further possibility of another price decrease at some point?
Absolutely, and I would fully expect that to happen. As the volumes of the as the volumes of patients who now will be able to take this drug go up through a huge amount of work that we've done along with our partners, and we now will have a real critical mass of manufacturers, I fully expect that the price will be coming down even further in the future.
Now, let's talk about the delivery process when it comes to Lupin and their processes. How quick will it be accessible to people that need it in different countries?
Oh, I think it would be very readily accessible through the GDF. Now that they've negotiated the price, it simply has to go through the delivery process of the Global Drug Facility, and that's a quick process so that it will be readily available. Now, I just want to make sure everybody is aware, though, the drug has been readily available through our other manufacturers, and the Global Drug Facility has drug in their pipeline so that this lower price will now be the new sales price target for all the other manufacturers to either meet or even beat.
And what are TB Alliance's long-term plans to support health systems in implementing the BPALM regimen at scale?
So we have instituted quite a bit of initiatives around the world to really lower the hurdle for countries to be able to utilize the BPALM regimen. I think the most notable may be an initiative that we started in the Philippines called PeerLink, which revolves around peer-to-peer education. As I think many of your viewers, listeners may know, the process of really adopting new treatments is a very laborious one and very difficult. There's multiple steps that countries need to go through in terms of hurdles to make sure that there is global, local guidance and especially that the systems are well equipped to handle new products in terms of education, etc. Together with our partners around the world, but especially the Tropical Disease Foundation in the Philippines, along with very generous funding from Australia, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Australia, a real innovative process where there is peer-to-peer learning based on the Philippines' early adoption and their early learning processes of how to use the BPALM regimen. What are the major areas that physicians need to learn? What are the major issues in terms of use of the regimen, from a patient point of view, from a physician point of view, from a systems point of view? And what we've done is made that peer-to-peer learning available to virtually any country around the world who wants to avail themselves of the opportunity to learn from the experiences that the Philippines have gone through over the past couple of years. And that has proven to be extremely successful in terms of really speeding up the process so that, in a sense, every country does not have to reinvent the wheel and doesn't have to experiment and learn for themselves. They can gain from the knowledge of the Philippines and now from other countries also. So this has only been one of the major advances that I believe we've helped stimulate, and we've been very fortunate to have fantastic partnerships around the world so that countries could much more quickly adopt this new BPALM regimens and get them into the hands of patients at a much quicker pace than has ever been done before with new treatments for TB.
Well, Dr. Spiegelman, thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Oh, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you. That's Dr. Mel Spiegelman, the President and CEO of the TB Alliance, joining us on the line.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Our members of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign have protested outside the U.S. consulate in Cape Town, that's in the Western Cape province of South Africa, demanding an immediate end to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Other members have demanded, amongst others, that the U.S. government ensures a full, unconditional ceasefire and stop the killing in Gaza. They say the United States continues to defy the United Nations and international law by providing political cover and military support to Israel. Andile Mbandra has more.
Gaza is here to stay. US, you will pay.
Palestine Solidarity Campaign Coordinator Youssef Chikte says they want the U.S. government to comply with the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants for Israel leaders accused of war crimes.
We are accusing the United States of being not only complicit, but being an active partner in the genocide. The United States is also calling through Trump for the displacement, the extermination, and the expulsion of people from Gaza. And we are objecting towards that, not only objecting towards that, but we are asking the United States to stop that complicity. And we want the United States, together with Israel, to be held accountable for that. And for that, South Africa is being punished. The United States are blocking aid to South Africa.
PSC member Abida Adams says the supply of coal to Israel is escalating the ongoing war in Gaza.
South Africa is exporting through Glencore thousands of tons of coal sold to the Zionist state of Israel, thereby fueling the genocide, because that coal is used for the Israeli occupation force, but it's also used to supply energy in the illegal settlements. But our Palestinian brothers and sisters, even now, we know since the most recent blockade, they have been discontinuing their access to electricity and energy all the time.
COSATU in the Western Cape has called on the South African government to amplify pressure on the U.S. government to stop the war in Gaza. COSATU Provincial Secretary Malvin de Bruyn.
Today we are here to tell the world that we want the war to stop. And we can't even call the war, we want the genocide to stop in Israel, in Palestine. We want a ceasefire in Gaza and we want our government to do more to put pressure on the American government and the Israeli government. We can't have a scenario that people have been killed on a daily basis, women and children, and the world is quiet.
They have also demanded the U.S. government to end all weapons sales and military support to Israel. I'm Andile Mbanjwa in Cape Town.
Up with liberation! Down with occupation!
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, we say good afternoon to the one half of the Upside team. That's Deboho Lekuleni joining us today. Well, happy Freedom Day. It is,
Yeah, very freeing that we're at work.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
I
free to come to work.
We're free to come to work,
which is brilliant.
Which is awesome. We have a choice, right? So what's coming up today on the Upside?
How was your weekend, by the way?
Oh, weekend was good. Yourself?
Yeah, did you rest?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
You look, you are radiating. So, what's coming up on the show this afternoon? We journey to Côte d'Ivoire, where there was an event celebrating craftsmanship, powering women, and spotlighting how the artisanal sector is transforming economies across Africa. They contribute or not contribute. They fuel about 40% craftsmanship, 40% of the economy of Côte d'Ivoire, and this is now in jobs, in employment, in skills, and in community involvement as well. So it is quite a powerhouse. We get into conversation, and also South Africa's representation at that particular event. They were invited as a special guest, so that's going to be an exciting conversation. And then we tackle a conversation that really is something that a lot of people can relate to. What happens when your tenant refuses to leave? At the end of their lease agreement, they now say, I don't want to leave. I have nowhere else to go. What are your rights as a landlord, and what are their rights as a tenant? We get into conversation about that. And then Bruce Jack Wines, once again ranked among the top 50 most admired wine brands in the world, flying the South African flag ever so high. We find out what is happening in South Africa, that we are constantly in talks, or rather in recognition when it comes to our wines. There's something happening there in Cape Town. The vineyards there are they're using different kinds of soil that's probably on steroids, but a different kind of steroids, a good one. So we want to find out more about this recognition and what it means for the brand going forward. So that's all coming up, and a lot of banter between myself and Nompumelelo Ngubeni.
All right, so that's the Upside coming up at the top of the hour with Double and I think today, is it not Ntsako?
It is Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Oh no, Ntsako is here producing.
Yes.
She's our stand-in extraordinary
producer.
So
it's the team, the full team, Nompumelelo Ngubeni and Deboho Lekuleni. For myself, Lulu Gaboo and the Africa Update team, it's been a good day. Thank you to our producer, Dumelo Zulu, our technical coordinator, Ndandulu Tuli, and social media, Elaine Bengani. Have a great day further in South Africa. You're on holiday. Enjoy it. Tomorrow it is back to business as usual. Bye-bye.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628. SABC News.